Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Sarada. On today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to make the bottom half of this dress, which in turn can be called a skirt. If that's something you're interested in, come with me and let's get started. Also, do not forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment down below. Thank you. The first thing we're going to do is go ahead to fold our fabric into two and then use our hip measurement as a way to figure out how wide we want this cloth to be. So for me, I did my hip measurement divided by 4 and then added my sewing allowance and ½ inch extra. At the top here, I'm going to do my waist measurement divided by 4. I'll add 1 inch for dart allowance and 1½ inch for sewing allowance. I would also go ahead to do the difference from my waist to my hip, which for me is 9. You could do 10, but I would do 9 because of how hippie I am. Okay, and then I'll do my hip measurement divided by 4 and my sewing allowance of 1½ inch and ½ inch to turn it in with my lining piece. I'll go at the top here and also include that ½ inch, and then I'll use my hip curve to put these two lines together. After I do that, I'll go ahead to get the length of the skirt. For the length of the skirt, I'm going to choose what I want. You could go ahead and choose what you want for the length of your skirt, but don't forget to add your hemming allowance. Now, if you're going to be attaching this part of the skirt onto another part, which is the top part, just like I have here, you want to go up by said allowance. So for instance, your top part stops at 17 inch. You want to go up by 17 inch and do your measurement. So now that we have all that in line, we're going to go ahead and measure our hip measurement. All the measurements that we have together, we'll go ahead to measure that and then take out 1½ inch for the knee line and then put it together using our straight rule. After doing that, I'll go ahead to cut this out. Now that we have the front sorted out, we're going to go ahead and cut the back. So basically what I do is place the front onto the back, but at this point here where you're supposed to have your zipper allowance, I went out by 3 inches, and here's why. We're going to first go ahead from the top to get our hip line, right where your hip line is supposed to be, and then from there you will get your butt allocation, basically where the skirt curves at your butt. That's what we're trying to do here. So for me, I went out by 1 inch, and what I did was use my hip curve to create a curve from that point to the top, which is actually the waistline, and then towards the lower part I went down by 7 inches, and that's where I will be stopping the curve that goes towards the lower part of the skirt. Now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and now measure out our zipper allowance. What I'm going to do is, now that we have that butt allocation line, I'm going to go ahead and measure out my zipper allowance. But when I get to the butt allocation line, like the line that we already created, I would follow the curve through to the lower part, and then when I get to the lower part, I'll just continue marking out 1½ all the way. If you don't understand what I'm saying, or if you don't understand what I said, please watch what I just did, and then I'll just go ahead to create like lines using both my straight rule and my curved rule, basically making sure that the zipper allowance line follows the curve of what we already created in the first place. That's why we have so much allowance, like 3½ or 3. At the front, part of the skirt, I went down by 1 inch, and this is supposed to help like remove any kind of bulge that you might have on the front line. But before I cut that out, I'll go ahead to shape the back skirt just like the front. Now the only difference that is visible here is that zebra allowance line and the allocation line, right? I'm just marking out my dart line so I know where it is, and then I'll go ahead to cut. For the back part, I'm going to go ahead and extend the dart line and then go down by 3/4 of an inch, make a slant line, and then cut what I need to cut. So basically I'm cutting both the zipper allowance and the slant line. Now we have the front and the back part of the skirt. I'm going to go ahead and transfer this onto a lining piece, which I have already done. So what we want to do on the lining piece is basically go up by 1.5 inch on the lining piece. So I basically just placed the main piece on the lining piece and then shifted it so I could see where I wanted to mark, right? And then I'm just marking upwards 1.5 inch. And what this is going to help with is it's just going to swoop it in so I don't have to hem. It's basically a hem, more like an invisible hem, and it's really simple and very neat to do. So here I've used my ruler to put it together, all the lines together, and I'm just going to go ahead to cut this out. Now you see when I place it on the lower part, I'll just go ahead and close it by basically 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is take this to the sewing machine, close the bottom part and then the sides of this. Okay, so bottom and the sides. We're not doing anything for the top just yet, and this is what we should have when we're done. You see how that hem part is just very neat, and it's the same for both the front and the back. So now we're going to go ahead and impute our darts to this. Now we have our darts already marked out. Remember when we went ahead to notch. Now if your dart has moved just 1 inch away from where it was because you went to use your lining piece to turn it in, you can just go ahead and remeasure, right, and then do what you need to do. So for me here, I'm marking out a dart of 7 inches long, and the reason why my dart is 7 inches long is because I'm going to be attaching it to a top part. But for you that's not going to be attaching it to a top part, you're just making a normal skirt, you want to go ahead and measure a dart length of 5 inches, nothing more or less, 5 inches. And then you want to go on both sides and mark out 1/2 inch. You can just do 1/2 inch on one side, since when you go to your machine and you fold your clothes, it's only one side of the dart that shows. So you just want to go ahead and do that. I'm also going to do the same for the front, but I wanted to show you how easy it will be to just like measure your dart for the front. So you just fold your skirt into two and then use the center. You know, for the back you have to basically measure your zipper allowance first before you measure your dart, but for the front you just fold your skirt into two and then get like the midpoint and use that as a guide to get your dart. Now that we have that, I'm going to go ahead and put it together, and after putting it together I will also go ahead and put both the front and the back together by the sewing allowance I left for it. I've gone ahead to put everything together, and this is what it looks like, right? The next thing we're going to focus on is closing it at the back, and we're going to have a little slit at the back because for me this is a short skirt. So I'm just going to go ahead and put this together, make sure that both backs are sitting perfectly, and then I'll go ahead to mark out where my zipper is supposed to be. Now your zipper is supposed to be 2 inches away from where your dart is, right? And then you go ahead to mark out 1.5 inch all the way. Now when you come to your slit, you can decide on how open or closed you want it to be, but for me here I went ahead to mark out 6 inches. Again, this is because the skirt part of this is really short, right? Okay, so now that I have that, I'll just go ahead to close it up like that, just like how my hand sign says. Okay, so I've gone ahead to close this. You should also go ahead to iron when you're done putting things together. Now this is what I have for this, the slit area, and this is the top here where the zip is going to go. I'm going to be attaching my zip after I have gone ahead to attach it to the upper part. But if you're not going to be attaching this to anything, I would advise that you then go ahead to place your band around it and then add your zip. If you're making a normal skirt, just go ahead and put your band around it if you're going to be using a band. I'm not going to be using a band, so I'm not going to be attaching a band to this. I hope you try this for yourself, and I hope you love the process of making yours as I have enjoyed the process of making mine. With that being said, y'all, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Don't forget to turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified when I post a new video. Don't forget to love yourself because I love you. Have a beautiful day or night, whichever it is you live for. Bye.